Hi everyone, my name is Yasmin and I'm an associate with the Center for Rising Generations. We're super excited to have you here today.
Thank you for
Winter.
having us. No, we're glad to be joining you both. Us four young people, I think I'm excited for the conversation, share more about our work. Overall, have a good time with you guys today.
Yeah, us too.
And hi everyone, I'm Winter. I also work for the Center for Rising Generations.
Um, yeah, we're gonna give you a little bit of time to introduce ourselves, but first we just wanted to introduce the conversation. So this month, the Center for Rising Generations is highlighting that leadership lives everywhere, but opportunities don't always reach everyone. So with our work at CRG, we've been trying to focus to build out frameworks about who's left out of the national conversation and how we can best support them and lend opportunities, and stuff like that. So we're wondering what happens when we rethink leadership opportunities. Who are they built for and who gets invited in and what can we do to challenge those norms?
And today we're joined by Denver and Dylan, the founders of FourDDo, a nonprofit dedicated to amplifying causes and initiatives that shape the lives of youth today, from partnering with changemakers, nonprofits, and brand who want to do more than just have the optics of being engaging with young people. And so this is a powerhouse duo, and we're super, super excited to have them here with us.
Yeah, again, we're super excited to have you both join us today, Denver and Dylan. So why don't we start by having you both tell us a little bit about yourself and why you created 4D Do?
I'll pass the floor to Denver first to kick us off.
Yeah, so hi everybody. My name is Denver Humphrey. I am a storyteller, an advocate, a young person, but well, I guess most importantly, but I don't know about importantly, but I guess important to me is I am the co-founder of FourDDo, which is a youth-led nonprofit that I co-found with Dylan, my brother, my older brother. So yeah.
Yeah, and bouncing off that, my name is Dylan Keith Humphrey. I am a junior at Emerson College. But I'm also a son. I'm a brother. I'm a creative, and I'm also the co-founder of FourDDo, a creative media organization using storytelling to make a difference. And I'm very honored to be joining you guys on the call today.
Cool. I mean, you guys are so amazing. We're so excited to hear more about your inspirations for creating 4D Do. So, can you walk us through why you guys decided to create the organization, what it stemmed from, and all the work you guys have put into it, working together as siblings too? I feel like that's really cool.
Yeah, where do we start? Do you want to go from the beginning, Denver? Like how super early? Okay. We'll bounce back and forth. So we were homeschooled growing up. We did a lot of different things. We played tennis competitively. We sang. We acted a little bit, which a whole different past life. You know, cats have nine lives. We're very similar. And we didn't have social media, and so we kind of joined it together. We were like, let's have this joint platform to kind of talk about how we're kind of doing life differently. We didn't know a lot of kids, black kids who were homeschooled. We were moving around a lot. We moved from Jersey to Florida to play tennis at a higher level. And we saw social media as like a tool to maybe talk about our story and our upbringing and just how very different it was. And it started off simply with like vlogging and posting these little videos of us practicing and singing and hanging out. And we did these little pranks, and it started off very, very innocent, very early, very fun. Um, and as our platform kind of expanded, we'd start getting these DMs from brands and organizations asking if we could rep their merch or talk about their organization or their work through our platform. But early on, I think it's because we were in it together. We knew that there was a value there that we needed to be mindful of. How can we use this platform to actually talk about things that we care about? How can we challenge these brands, these organizations to think critically about their own youth inclusion? And how can we also be in these spaces, but also co-create? And
Mhm.
so in that, we started FourDDo, a kind of like a youth amplification hub on the importance of youth story, the importance of amplification and the power of media and story to make a difference. And so that's my version of it, and I'll pass it to Denver to tell the rest.
Yeah, so definitely I think that's heavily accurate, but I also think from there, the Youth Amplification Hub 42 has kind of shifted into like its own little from like sort of smaller initiatives to like local things to, teaching people things and all of that to kind of what it is now, which is more about like what Dylan and I are passionate about, like which is media, which is storytelling, which is raising awareness for voices and representation and all of that. And that's kind of like it's almost like 40 has evolved with like how we've evolved as like people and like siblings and young people. So yeah, this is 40 now.
Oh,
Yeah.
I love that so much. Oh, do you want to add more?
No, I mean, I think to maybe provide extra clarification, we've designed campaigns, we've worked with legal organizations on kind of building an ecosystem so that when young people bring us questions asking, "Hey, I'm seeing this thing called AI in my school. I don't know where to start." We can point to an organization within our reach and be like, here's an organization that I trust, that I've seen, and like we do not have all the answers, but hopefully we can point you in a direction to so you can find clarity, find comfort, in whatever you might need. So
I love
yeah.
that. I mean, that's like so powerful because we often talk about like building out a hub within the Center for Rising Generations, but that's like very much a lot of what you guys are doing, like building a hub to connect a lot of people. So like being connectors, how have you seen like institutions or like who do you think institutions are missing from the conversation from talking with a bunch of different people? So do you find in your conversations with partners that institutions are leaving people out, so there's a big need for you guys, or in being a connector, how do you see that?
I can go first. Or Deborah, you want to go first? Okay, I'll go first. I think that with institutions, I often find that for young people, there are those who think they can access institutions, and
Mm.
then those who believe they have no access at all, right? Those who believe that there's a certain type of person that deserves entry. And our work is focused on how can we not only challenge institutions to think about how they're built, but how these structures that proclaim inclusivity oftentimes are performing that instead of actually living by it and abiding by it. I find that they rely on their familiarity as this large institution, the trust that they've built over decades, but not actually thinking about how that doesn't apply to modernity, where we are now in this digital cultural hodgepodge of time we're in right now. And so I found that institutions are missing the young people who don't have the time to think about the institutions that they want to enter. The young people who are taking care of their families, the ones who are going to school and then to work and then back in bed to do it all over again the next day. And so there, in all of that, there's just young people who are falling through the gaps, and they also deserve to be held. And I think that's what our work seeks to do.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah,
Sorry.
absolutely. No, absolutely. I was going to just echo that, but yeah, please continue.
Yeah, no, I definitely just think I echoing that as well. I think that that's very accurate to what 40 I think also does at the same time. I think like we yes, we collaborate with institutions and other organizations, but we also do intend to kind of produce the other young people's projects, to do the campaign design, to make sure that the youth voice is at the table and it is being like well informed in regards to other orgs. But we also know that um, it's amazing to kind of be involved with other people, but it's also amazing to make your own things too. And that's what we also look to support young people in doing. And yeah, I just think that a lot of times when it comes to institutional support, they're looking for a specific type of person to kind of represent or to amplify. And I think knowing kind of what we do as an org, we try and make sure that voices who we haven't heard from are amplified. And we do that a lot through various different projects and initiatives. And I feel like that's actually what we do best. But
No, that's super cool. So like you guys do like a lot of work like within that digital space and making sure it's like you said, like up to modern times and like catching up to like really what young people are like passionate about right now. So like why do you think institutions are still missing the mark so often with youth engagement? Is it only because like institutions aren't hiring younger people, or is it because they're really just stuck in their ways? Or like what is your perspective on this with working with so many orgs?
Yeah. An essential element of Denver and I's experience, and also just the birth of 40Do, is that we were very mobile at a young age, right? Like we moved from New Jersey to Florida, and then we kind of traveled around having a parent who's a traveling nurse. We were in 6 to 7 different states. That was not on purpose. 6 to 7 different states, kind of moving and seeing different people and meeting, kind of entering new institutions. Um, And so I think when you build a hub that's supposed to help in one place, it's very hard to impact someone across the country,
Mm.
right? Very difficult to impact someone who lives miles and miles away and doesn't own a car, right? And so we pride ourselves on being mobile, being able to go from I'm in Boston now, Denver's in Florida now. But we can also do work in California. We can design resources to be implemented in Poland, right? Like you can have this global reach when you focus and you think about the power of your mobility, and that's kind of what social media is. It is a mobile way for us to access each other very quickly. And so we think about that in our work as well.
That's super interesting. I feel like I relate so much to you guys' stories in a lot of ways of just being young and in a non-traditional sort of like environment as it relates to my leadership development journey and taking initiative to just start things when, to Denver's point earlier, of it, when sometimes not just about the institutions, but there's young people who are doing amazing work and we just are doing it ourselves and figuring out how to amplify that work and support that work. And what you're doing at FourDDo is super amazing in that regard also. And I want you to speak on that a little bit too. Like, what have been the most meaningful projects that you've worked on with FourDDo and young people?
I'll let Denver go first.
For sure. Yeah, I think, and that's when I said like we've honestly shifted so much. I feel like 42 is almost like a person in a way that it's had like so many different like ways and like angles of where it's come. Like we've done like hunger initiatives or like No Kid Hungry, and we've done sort of like things around sports and well-being and all of that. But I also think like one of the most impactful ones was like last year, which was our Days of Mindfulness initiative, where we went to six or no, I'm so sorry. I was trying to do this. Yeah, okay, never mind. But so we went to like five or so different cities and states, which was like Boston and Nashville and New York, oh, Brooklyn, and I just think going to all those different places and kind of understanding how is mindfulness practice, understanding the need. We did it in very different ways, from like family dinners to like activations and leadership and like higher education and all those different formats, and kind of there's so many different themes and topics, but overall, kind of how do well like young people practice mindfulness and practice well-being. And then we culminated that with like a documentary, which will come out later this year or mid this year. But yeah, I think overall, it's shaped so much. But our biggest goal is how can we have different themes and and just understand the need, assess the need. Like we saw, we did that because so many people are online, so many people are just like chronically online or kind of like have like a whole always disconnected with other people. So how could we do that and do it in a way where it's either online or in person? And we felt that was Days of Mindfulness. So
Yeah.
that was one of them. But yeah.
Yeah, and it's kind of like that person who goes into a store and is going just for a hat, but also like ends up buying shoes and a coat and socks because you can, right? And I think you're told very early on that you have to choose, like you have to pick a certain item for a certain event. When actually you can have as much as you want, and you don't have to limit yourself. Um, and Denver talks about this wonderful tour, 5 different cities across 6 months. We were kind of moving through like 10 states as we got to each of them. And I see that work, but I'm constantly thinking about the that one young man in Brooklyn who had walked an hour to enter the space that we made, and then we drive him home and we just hear his entire story about how he's not sure what he's allowed to want. He's not sure what his future looks like, and he's just in this he's in this space of constant confusion because that's kind of what growing up is. It's this ongoing experiment. And the structures that we have in place are too rigid to allow much grace for that. And so, how can we displace them? How can we disrupt them? Or how can we build new ones that work and that are equitable?
Amazing. Uh, I absolutely love that. What I'm curious, what gives you hope about this rising generation of leaders? And what advice would you give to leaders who are trying to figure out ways to share their story and use storytelling as a medium of change? Like, what advice would you give to like a young person, like the person who you drove back home in Brooklyn after your event, or other young people who are inspired by your work?
Yeah. I think a big thing that I think through 40 we're trying to keep I guess, emphasizing or kind of just really trying to make, and honestly, just in all of our practices and even having an organization, I think it's just really important to know you just can't do things alone and you don't expect to do them alone or you don't feel like you have to do them alone. And I think that's a big thing. Like I'm super, super pro like collectivism and that we can do this if we, that's all that 42 does. Like we just collaborate with other orgs or we're doing campaign design or honestly putting young people in this room with that org or, trying to connect dots and be a middle person and yeah, just kind of shifting resources. And I think if we do that more as people, whether it's your own personal project or whatever you want to do, I just think it's really important that you understand that there's so many resources out there and if you don't have access to them, how can you, equip a group of people to, support you in that? I just think that's really important. That's always what we're trying to like amplify as well at 40Do. But yeah, I might have to add some more to that, but Dylan can go.
Yeah, no, I think my if I were to speak to someone who I think the one thing I would say is that we're constantly in a period of becoming. Like you're never going to be a finished product.
Mhm.
Every moment that you have is just another fruit added to a constantly blending blender. And so there's like and nothing ever ends until it does. And I think we're in a constant period of transition. Like at this age, we're moving, we're making new friends, we're entering unfamiliar spaces, we're having new roles, and that's just periodically, constantly. Um, and so to ask a young person to find stability in that is hard. It's hard. It's also at times unrealistic. What Denver and I try to do in our work is ask you to dream and to like think about your dreaming as a necessity, and also to think about how it does not matter the room, the weight of the room, who's in the room, you're adding something in every space that you're in. And so at 42, if we can remind you um, of the importance of you, the importance of you not only in your work but as you as a person. Um, that's our goal because right now we're in a hope crisis, right? We're in a crisis of hope, and we feel very low on it. And so, how can we add fuel to you know young people or encourage them to think more highly of their work, their personhood in a time when it's kind of like constantly being beaten down.
Mhm.
Um, and I think Denver can also attest to this, and I'm sure you two can as well. And if you're in a myriad of spaces, hearing like what young people need right now, what we need right now is time. We need time to be able to think about all of this, all the stuff going on, but we don't have that. And what we need instead of that is then grace, which we're not being given. And so, how can you give? How can we give blankets and pillows? But you can rest and still do great work and dream. And that's more than enough. And we center that in our work.
I love that so much. Like to the point, like to your point of dreaming, I think I talk about this often even in our work here. Like one of the biggest assets I think of young people that we take for granted is our ability to imagine and our imagination and ability to like dream of a future that's unencumbered by what is and what has been. And so like it's super amazing to hear like you touch on that and you speak on that because oftentimes I don't think young people understand the power in that asset. And we're told to morph and to, wear the right outfit to work and get that 9 to 5 and to see
Right.
another like young people who are building the future that they want to see actively is super amazing. And and the other piece of that imagination thing that I talk about and hear often is like imagination and wisdom, right? Like I kind of give institutions maybe or the older folks in the room, like whatever, y'all can have the wisdom, right? Um, but what would you say if you were to give some wisdom to um the older people, to more quote unquote established leaders who
Mhm.
are trying to reach a new audience or reach young people in particular, but are having
Mhm.
a hard time connecting and doing so in an organic way? Like, what would be the wisdom that you offer to institutions, to brands, to orgs, to established leaders on how to do that?
I think here's the thing. I think it's super, and this is said in like the most positive way ever. I think it's just really important to just as people in general. This isn't even just for older people. This is in general that it's okay to admit something that you don't know, or to admit that, hey, maybe I'm unfamiliar about this, or I don't know this thing, or I don't know all the latest trends and all the things the kids are doing on the socials. But I just think it's really important to admit that because it's okay. I think as people, we should be open to admitting that our not our just like what we don't know. And I think if we are do that more, just from an organizational perspective, from just a people perspective, we would get a lot farther because then we would communicate. And communication can open so many doors and so many realms of just, conversation. And conversation can be ideas and ideating and then innovation. I don't know. I just think that's what we need to kind of admit more of. And it's not like a fault that you have or that you're wrong. It's just that you're unsure. And I think that's really powerful to admit because you don't have to know everything because it's impossible to. So.
Yeah. And if I could add to that, I'd say that young people are not a monolith. I think the more that you focus on building your work, you will build this carousel, and once people are on it, they just get right off of it. How do you build work that people want to return to? And how do you build spaces that don't feel like they're just going to disappear? And how well do the young people that you're targeting know you? Like, do they know the people leading it? Do they know the people? Like, do they know the infrastructure well? So there has to be something that's connective but also tangible that can so that when a young person sees your work and engages with it for the first time, the second time, the third time, they're excited by it and curious to learn more.
But also a big part of that, to add it on, is that making a safe space for young people so that they feel that they can open up about these things or even just like open up about their life. Because asking them and then like even giving them a seat at the table, but not making it like a safe space or a safe table. Or at least or making it weird. Like don't make it weird. Just like it's just a table, it's just a chair. But it's important chair to that young person. But if you make it weird, then obviously they're not gonna want to say nothing. So I just think there's just levels to it, but it's also just not that deep. So I think just making sure you're making it safe and admitting you don't know everything is important.
No, 100%. You guys bring up like such amazing points that like Winter and I have been, thinking like the same things over the course of this past year working with CRG and like working within an institution where we're acknowledging like we work in this institution, but how can we really make an impact as young people who are doing the work here? So like everything you're saying is something in one way or another that we've like thought and talked about so many times. So and I'm sure I know we're not the only people who have ever thought like this, and people more than ever are looking for spaces and communities and organizations that like also echo these same sentiments. So we're so excited to uplift you guys. And like, what is next for FourDDo? Like, how can people stay involved? How can people remain in contact with you guys? Like, what can people do, yeah, to stay in contact with you guys?
Yeah, I'm gonna go first.
Go for it.
Okay, beautiful. I mean, there's so much going on. Like what I love when we were talking about imagination and dreams because that's a big thing that we had through culminating the tour. We're releasing like a short documentary called Dreamers, which is about the safe spaces, the dreams, the passions that these four young people have. And it's a very intimate documentary, just about the culmination of the journey and just like highlighting young people, which is obviously important to us. So we're excited to release that later in 2026, and then Dylan can plug the next thing.
Yeah, and being we're all in some way or shape right now institutionalized. Like that is a core element of being a young person. And we've also witnessed how many barriers there are for entry, especially for a young creative. Um, and as FourDDo has evolved into being this platform that's very pro creative storytelling, very pro movement building and organizing, we've realized that we need to give a stage and a microphone to young creatives. And so we are launching Four Stories. It's a fellowship in collaboration with the Good Services Lab within the Bloomberg Center for Cities and Harvard University. It is a Boston pilot to support four young filmmakers to tell stories that magnify what we're not seeing right now. What are we missing? And then convene to talk with city leaders about how art can help enact change and make us think differently about the communities that we're in. And so we are very proud of this. It was Denver's idea first, late last year. Lots of conversations were happening. Like, it's such a great idea, but it was hard to kind of acquire the fuel for the rocket. And then you kind of find that one trusted adult who can kind of give you that hope, and give you the okay to go. And so once we've been given the green light and we're excited to launch late April, early May. And so stay tuned for that. Yeah.
Oh, we're so excited. This is so cool. Like just hearing about it is inspiring. I'm sure like so many cool short films are gonna come of it. So many cool um people who you just have no idea like what they're going through and the stories that are hidden from the media and all the things that like we wish that would like draw connection and bring us closer to other people. So like I'm so excited to see what comes of it. That's so cool. I'm so happy for you guys. And yeah, like that's the end of our questioning. Like we had such a fun time interviewing you guys. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for sharing your insights and your passions and your experiences. Your perspectives are so needed, especially now more than ever. Going back to your point, Dylan, like we're at a time where people society is more polarized than ever.
Mhm.
So what we need most is people trying to bring us in together and, you know, bring us back to community and showing us really who's doing the good work. So thank you so much. Make sure to check out FourDDo to learn about the great work that Dylan and Denver are doing across the country. And if you enjoyed this conversation, please share it within your communities, like, share, repost, and visit the Center for Rising Generations at risinggenerations.org. Thanks.